Well now, a question. When you say, I am guilty, where is this I? Is it in the body? Then point to it. Show me the square inch where the guilt identity resides. Is it in the mind? Then define its edges. Does it sit in memory or in the reputation spoken of by neighbors? When I say I, how are you going to localize that? Here? Here? In the head, the heart, the hand? No. No. No surgeon has ever yet found any me inside of a body. They have found organs, tissues, nerve currents, but not the I that says I. I am not in the physical. Absent from the body, present with the Lord, the true I cannot be measured by inches, weighed by pounds, or sealed into yesterday's narrative. Yet guilt speaks with a noisy tongue. It repeats, it circles, it takes the attention and fastens it to yesterday as if time itself were a prison. It shouts in the night and whispers in the morning, and in that clamor your prayers feel paralyzed. Your steps become hesitant. Your speech is guarded by fear that who you are is who you were. It says, me, me, me. And because that sound comes dressed in your memories and your sensations, you mistake the claimant for yourself. That is its tyranny. Not power of its own, but borrowed authority from your attention. Hear this plainly. No, guilt is not a person. No, guilt is not the self. No, guilt is not God-ordained identity. It is a mental claim, a self-propagating motion of thought, feeding on identification and starving when unfed. It is not guidance. It is not wisdom. It is not correction from the law. It is the echo of a belief that mind apart from God must sit upon the throne and pass sentence upon itself. And it cannot, because there is only one judge and one lawgiver. And that law does not fashion condemned identities. It reveals alignment and restores order. So do not argue with guilt. You will not win by shouting in its language. The way out is not contention, but relocation of identity. When the I that I am is recognized as non-local, when you withdraw the false localization, I am this body, this story, this yesterday, you will hear another tone. In the hush where you stop supplying guilt with your name, silence answers. And the answer is, not I. In that stillness appears the ancient truth. I am merely the instrument. God is the actor. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. Therefore, nothing impersonal and accusatory can annex my name and call itself me. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Let that be the inner password as we proceed. Let attention lift from the yesterday identity, and we will discover that what suffered was a mistaken claimant, and what remains is the I that cannot be condemned. What, then, is this thing that howls, me, without being me? It is a mental atmosphere, an impersonal weather of thought that drifts in upon the field of consciousness and demands a tax. Pay. Pay again. Pay still more. It issues invoices that have no bottom line and no due date, because its business is not settlement. Its business is perpetuation. Guilt is accusation, self-punishment, and a demand to pay without ever permitting the account to close. It is not guidance. It is not light. It is not the law. It is the churn of mind beholding itself apart from God and trying to repair itself with itself. And it cannot. Do you see the distinction? Conscience is light. Conscience is the lamp of God in the innermost room. revealing the straight path and the next right step. When conscience speaks, correction becomes possible, and peace attends the obedience. Guilt is darkness. After the light has shown the way, guilt rushes in to condemn the traveler as unworthy of the road. Conscience says, "Turn here," and the way opens. Guilt says, "You missed it, and now you are the miss." No, no. The missed turn is not an identity. It is a moment for correction, and the law of love provides the remedy. As you sow, so shall ye reap. Plant again in alignment, and the harvest changes. Cosmic law corrects. It does not enthrone a condemned self. Why does mental debate fail? Because the same mind that accuses attempts to be counselor, judge, jury, and executioner. It frames the charge, argues the defense, and refuses acquittal because its livelihood is the trial itself. Have you ever noticed that when you argue with guilt, you are arguing with a shadow that changes shape as you speak? It is like disputing with fog. The words disappear into it, and it grows thicker by the minute. In mathematics, 2 times 2 is 4. You do not scold the figures nor plead with them, you align. So with guilt. Argument only tightens the knot, because argument keeps the identity localized in the debater. The accuser and the accused are the same mask, and the stage is the belief in a self apart from God. Here is the Goldsmith correction. Do not fight the thought. Withdraw the I from it. Let it be exactly what it is, an impersonal mental claim with no person in it and no person behind it. Remove the oxygen of identification, and the fire goes out. Say within, quietly and without drama, I am not in the physical, absent from the body, present with the Lord. I refuse to lend my name to a passing weather of mind. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. Therefore, there is no claimant to answer, no condemned self to rehabilitate. I am merely the instrument. God is the actor. In that recognition, the atmosphere thins. The demand to pay is met, not by pain, but by presence. And if a remnant of the voice knocks again, do not open the door to debate. Open to grace. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Let the claim stand outside without a name to seize, and it dissolves where it stands. Well then, let us inquire with honesty. When the surge comes, tightness in the chest, heat in the face, a churning in the stomach, where is the guilty me? Put your finger there. Is it here in the chest? Wait 5 minutes. Now is it not in the throat? Is it not in the head? Is it not a pressure behind the eyes? If the seed of me migrates like a bird from limb to limb, is it the self, or is it a weather pattern of sensation? No, no. The traveler that moves from chest to brow is not the I. It is a passing report, and the body is the reporter. The body reports, it does not define. The thermometer tells you it is 90 degrees. It does not make the summer, and it is not the sun. No surgeon has ever yet found any me inside of a body. They have found arteries, valves, and a good many stories told by the nerves, but not the I that says, I. I am not in the physical, absent from the body, present with the Lord. Do not mistake the spiritual formula for an escapism. It is geometry. You cannot pin the infinite to an organ. You cannot weigh identity on a scale or imprison it in a pulse. When I say, I, how are you going to localize that? Here? Here? No. The I that knows the chest, the throat, the brain as objects of awareness is not contained by them. Awareness is not inside the picture it beholds. Guilt thrives on this confusion. It borrows the body's microphone, tightness, fatigue, a hollow under the ribs, and announces, I am you. It is not. It is an impersonal suggestion dressed in sensation. The body is innocent of this drama. It is a fine instrument, but it does not compose the music, and it does not pass sentence upon the player. Treat its signals with kindness. Rest when you must, eat when you should, but do not let a twinge become a theology. The spiritual I is not a twinge. Practice this. When the old voice rides in on a wave of feeling, label it rightly without argument. A squeeze in the chest is appearing. Warmth in the face is appearing. A restless current is appearing. Do not say, I am this. Do not drive it out. Do not nurse it. Withdraw the name. Sit, if you can, in a chair comfortable enough to forget the body for a moment. Let the hands rest. Close the eyes until you are virtually unaware of having a body. Not for occult reason, only to remove the intrusion. Now wait, desireless, without composing speeches for or against. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. In that acknowledgement, the impersonal claim has no person to seize. Sometimes, in that waiting, a click comes, the inner settling by which presence makes itself evident without words. In that click, there is no me to condemn, because God is the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. From this non-local center, the sensations may still appear, but they have lost their authority badge. They come without a name, they go without a verdict. And the heart learns a simpler truth. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Not the body's weather, not yesterday's story, but grace, sufficient, present, and unconfined. Consider now the nature of law. In mathematics, 2 times 2 is 4. It does not love you, and it does not hate you. It is impersonal. If in your ledger you write that 2 times 2 is 5, the figures do not become angry. Your account simply will not balance. So with the traffic law. If you run a red light, there is no policeman in the signal hating you. There is only the design of order protecting lives. Violate it, and you bring upon yourself the result built into the violation. You can weep, you can plead, you can rationalize, but none of that alters the principle. Now hear this in its spiritual import. Cosmic law is impersonal. It cannot be cheated. It cannot be bribed. It does not condemn a person. It corrects a course. Wrongdoing, then, is not the birth of a guilty self. It is ignorance or disregard of law, and its effect is the natural repercussion that says, turn here, turn now. When you place your hand in a flame, the burn is not a verdict of unworthiness. It is the instruction built into fire. Do not use me for that purpose. You are not redefined by the burn. You are redirected by it. As you sow, so shall ye reap is not a curse. It is an assurance that the field is honest. Sow corn, reap corn. Sow thorns, reap thorns. Change the seed, and you change the harvest. But nowhere in the field does a condemned identity sprout. Only consequences appear until alignment is restored. What is alignment? It is the obedience of consciousness to two simple commandments that are not religious decorations, but universal statutes. Thou shalt have no other gods before me, and love thy neighbor as thyself. One God, one power means this. Do not enthrone guilt, memory, sensation, public opinion, or personal will as powers. They are not. They are claimants. When you bow to them, you have other gods, and discord follows. Love thy neighbor as thyself means this. Cease using life to take, to punish, to dominate. Let your action arise from the recognition that your neighbor's good is part of your own being. In that love, law smiles because it sees itself in you. Harmony follows because there is nothing at cross-purpose with it. Do not tamper with a cosmic law. It is a double-edged sword. If you try to use spiritual truth to whip yourself, if you take holy words and turn them into lashes, if you say, "Because I know better, I must now pay with pain," you have used the law to serve a selfish purpose, even though the self appears penitent. Self-condemnation is not obedience. It is still self-enthroned. And the law, being impersonal, will cut the hand that wields it for wrong just as surely as it would cut another's. Never use truth as a weapon, not against your neighbor, and not against yourself. What then shall we do when we discover a wrong? Acknowledge the principle, accept the consequence, make amends where amends restore order, and change the seed. That is all. Do not add a narrative of a condemned me, for there is no such creature in the kingdom of God. I am merely the instrument. God is the actor, and the doer, and the beer. In oneness with God, right action reveals itself, and the harvest shifts by law, not by self-torture. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things, sufficient to illumine the error, sufficient to correct the course, sufficient to prove that spiritual law restores alignment without ever manufacturing a condemned identity. Let us now uncover one of the most tenacious bargains the mind makes with itself. If I hurt enough, I will be clean. Have you seen it? The vow to suffer, the inward scourge, the refusal of rest, the silent penances, each a coin dropped into a bottomless box. But notice, the box never fills. The mind that demands payment is the same mind that declares the account unpaid. You fast and it says, "Not enough." You wake in the night to rehearse sorrows and it says, "Not yet." You withhold good from yourself as proof of remorse and it whispers, "This is only the beginning." The bargain is false because the merchant is false. There is no counter on which pain is legal tender in the kingdom of God. Why is it futile? Because punishment turns the face of attention back upon a personal self and enthrones it as the center of the universe. All day long the thought runs, my failure, my stain, my sentence. And in that ceaseless circulation, the belief is planted that evil is power, permanence, substance. No, no. Evil has no law to sustain it, no principle to perpetuate it, and no identity to inhabit. What is sustained is merely the hypnotic picture of a someone who must pay. Self-punishment keeps alive the idol of a guilty me. It lays offerings at the altar of a God that does not exist. Do not try to manipulate God with vows, with pain, with calculated self-denial. God is not a merchant. Spirit is not a market. There is no bribe that can purchase peace, for peace is not a commodity. It is the nature of God realized as your being. When you say, because I hurt, thou must forgive. You are attempting to use law for a private end. And don't ever tamper with a cosmic law. It is a double-edged sword. Any effort to leverage truth, even in pious tones, turns and wounds the leverer, because there can be no selfish purpose in a cosmic law. The kingdom has no toll booth where tears are weighed and receipts issued. Consider it in the simplest analogy. In mathematics, 2 times 2 is 4. You may punish yourself for writing 5 in your ledger. You may refuse dinner as penance. You may pace the floor. None of that balances the column. Only correction balances it. So, in spirit, the account is not settled by pain. The account is dissolved by presence. The bill that guilt waives is not honored in God's government. It is canceled at the moment identity is relocated. I am not in the physical. I am not this character of yesterday. I am that I am. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. Therefore, there is no condemned self to repair, only behavior to realign under law. What then is the true act? Turn from the theater of self-punishment into the sanctuary of silence. Remove the claimant's name from your tongue. Be still, desireless, unbargaining, until the inner assurance, sometimes a soft click, announces that the judge, the law, and the love are one presence, and it is your very life. From there, make amends where love directs, sow new seed where wisdom shows, and walk on without carrying a noose in the pocket. I am merely the instrument. God is the actor and the doer and the beer. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things, sufficient to end the bargain, sufficient to dissolve the picture, sufficient to prove that nothing need be paid, because nothing real was ever owed. Now the silent way begins, and it begins in the simplest manner. Choose a chair that is comfortable enough to forget your body for a few minutes. Sit so that the back is supported but not rigid. Feet resting on the floor, hands relaxed in the lap or on the thighs, never gripping, never propping, merely at ease. Let the shoulders release. Close the eyes. There is no occult reason for any of this, only one of physical comfort, that we may be virtually unaware of having a body. We are removing intrusions, not performing magic. We are absent from the body, present with the Lord. Let the breath be as it is. Do not count it, do not drive it, do not hold it. No strain, no posture to force a result. You are not here to do something to God or to yourself. You are here to remove yourself from the bench and the bar, so that the courtroom of mind has no judge, no plaintiff, no audience. Without a stage, guilt cannot perform. Set the inner posture aright. Come with no project, no plea for rescue, no bargaining. If a word is needed to quiet the surface, let it be a simple acknowledgement. Father, here I am. Or, Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Whisper it once within, and let it sink. Then, be still. Desire nothing. Seek not the fixing of a problem, not even the experience of forgiveness. Seek God alone. Be willing to be shown what is true, and unwilling to manage how it is shown. Now the negations that cleanse the air. Do not rehearse. Do not explain. Do not defend. Do not condemn. Wait. If memories parade, recognize them as a moving picture and refuse to climb into the screen. If sensations rise and fall, let them be weather, not identity. Say nothing to them. offer them no name. Wait. In this waiting there is work, but not the work of a will. It is the holy non-interference that lets the infinite announce itself. I wait in a state of receptivity. I do not summon. I do not project. I do not try to make the light appear. I wrest the mind from its commerce and lean into the fact. I am not in the physical. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. And sometimes, without fanfare, the click comes. Not excitement, not tears. A quiet shift, as if a weight has rolled off the edge of awareness, as if the edges of me have softened, and a still, immense presence has taken occupancy of the room that had been crowded with thoughts. The mind's courtroom is dark, the doors swung open, and there is no one seated to accuse, because there is no I apart from God to accuse. In that instant, God is the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. Remain there a few moments. Do not congratulate yourself. Do not report the experience to yourself. Do not seize it. Let it seize you. Silence is not passivity. It is the doorway where false identity dissolves and truth becomes experiential. Out of that stillness, if a next right step is needed, it will appear, without strain, without self-punishment, without argument. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Let that grace keep the door open as we proceed. Now mark the transition. When that quiet shift comes, you are not sitting there as a little doer clutching a private virtue. You are not polishing a personal soul. No. No. In that click, the premise changes. Life is seen to be living itself. God is the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. Do you see? Technique yields to realization. The hands that a moment ago were trying to fix a self are now at rest, because the self is not a project. It is presence. The stream is moving of its own nature, and you are in it, as it, by the simple fact that I and the Father are one. Let us be plain about the I. The sum of past actions is not an identity. It is a record, and often a poor one. Records can be amended. Identity cannot be soiled. The personal sense, the image in memory, the echo in feeling, the character on yesterday's stage says I, but it cannot be the I, for it rises and falls with conditions. The real I is consciousness of God. The real I is this awareness now awake to oneness. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. Therefore, guilt cannot attach to what is of God, any more than shadow can stain the sun. You may see smudges on a window, but not on the light itself. You may correct the window, you do not scrub the sun. Here is the practical fruit. Guilt will return in the familiar costume and knock with the same knuckles. Your past is power. Your past is law. Your past is you. Hear the commandment rise like a sentinel within. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. To grant the past authority over the present is to worship a second power. It is to enthrone a ghost and call it sovereign. No. No. There is no second power. There is no God named yesterday. When identity is relocated in God, guilt is recognized as a temptation to split the one. One God for Sunday, another for memory. Refuse the split. Stand in the indivisible. Absent from the body, present with the Lord. I let yesterday be a field where sowing and reaping occur under law, but I do not let it be a throne where a condemned self sits. Then what of correction? It proceeds, but without self-hatred. The instrument is tuned, the musician is the life and the tone. If there is a wrong to right, willingness appears. If there is an amends to make, courage appears. If there is a habit to drop, strength appears. Not by willpower grinding its teeth, but by law revealing right action through consciousness. As you sow, so shall ye reap. So we sow again, and better, because the sower is no longer a frightened claimant, paying for a name that never belonged to him. The work is clean. The steps are simple. The heart is quiet. Hold to this center. I and the Father are one. In my oneness with God, I find my completeness, my safety, my purity. I am not in the physical. I am not in the narrative. I am in God, and God in me. God is the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. And in that instrumentality, the old accuser loses its jurisdiction, for there is no personal court left to try the case. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Let grace, not history, define the I, and the burden falls of itself. Self-forgiveness now takes its true place, not as a varnish over wrong, not as a talisman to avoid consequence, but as restoration of identity under law. Hear this clearly. Forgiveness does not deny harm. It denies to harm the authority to define being. We do not call wrong right. We do not rename thorns as roses. We acknowledge the wound and bind it. We acknowledge the misseed and sow again. But we refuse the blasphemy of enthroning a condemned self where only God belongs. No, no. The act may have been wrong. The harvest may require correction, but the I of you, the I that is awareness of God, remains uncondemned, for it never left God to become a separate actor. You have as much right to forgive yourself as to forgive your neighbor. Do you hear? As much right and as much duty. 70 times 7, until no echo of accusation sits on the throne of consciousness. If you must repeat it daily, repeat it daily. If you must repeat it hourly, repeat it hourly. Not as a trick, not as a cover, but as obedience to the law of love that refuses second powers. As you forgive another, you affirm one life acting through all. As you forgive yourself, you deny that a false identity may squat in your name and rule you by yesterday. If you withhold self-forgiveness, you enthrone two laws, one for neighbor, one for you. And that is the beginning of hypocrisy and the end of peace. What is the mechanism? Forgiveness is not memory erasure. It is identity transfer. It is moving the nameplate from the person who did to the presence that is. It is the inward reallocation of I. Sit quietly. Become virtually unaware of the body. No occult reason, only the removal of intrusion. Whisper once within, Father, show me what I am in Thee. Let Thy life be lived where this self-condemnation has been. Then be still. Do not plead innocence. Do not rehearse guilt. Wait until the click comes. Or if it does not come this moment, wait still, desireless. I am not in the physical. Absent from the body, present with the Lord. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. God is the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. In that union, the condemned character has nowhere to sit, for the stage of separate self has been struck. Does this excuse the act? Never. Cosmic law is honest. If amends bring order, love will show you the door and give you the courage to knock. If restitution is right, strength will appear to make it. If a habit must die, grace will supply the knife and steady the hand. As you sow, so shall ye reap. So sow again in alignment. But note the miracle. Correction proceeds without self-hatred because the worker is not a criminal paying debt. The worker is an instrument through whom God restores God's own order. Let it settle in you. Self-forgiveness is the refusal to let past acts define the spiritual I. It is the steady, humble transfer of identity to presence, repeated 70 times 7 until the accuser has no courtroom left. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things, sufficient to reveal the wrong, sufficient to guide the right, sufficient to silence the old name and write the true. In that sufficiency, be at peace and walk on. Now that identity has been quietly relocated, the old manager creeps to the edge of the stage with a new script. Let me make this stick. Let me produce peace. Let me force forgiveness, mine and theirs. Let me have an experience, a sign, a click on command. No, no. That is interference. Spirit needs no stagehand tugging the scenery. Grace does not need your self-management. It needs your non-resistance. You cannot coerce the ocean to rise into a wave with your fingers. You remove the stones, and the tide reveals itself. In this way we remove resistance, the rehearsing, the pleading, the inward campaigns to appear spiritual to ourselves. We sit, we wait, we allow. I wait in a state of receptivity until the click comes, or until it does not, and still I wait without demand, because God is the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. Take this to heart for your safety. You are not asked to perfect yourself before turning to God. You are asked to come. Perfection is not a polish laid on a person. It is spirit revealed as what already is when the person yields. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you, does not mean shine your shoes first. Come with your scuffed shoes and knock. Absent from the body, present with the Lord, we stop attempting to sculpt a better character, and we stand in fact. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. From there, what needs correcting gets corrected by law. What needs annulling is annulled by light. Interference ends when the will retires from the altar and lets the presence be the priest. Now in relationships, watch the subtle commerce of guilt as manipulation. I will suffer so you will forgive me. I will perform remorse so you cannot leave. I will confess again and again to keep you bound to my courtroom. This is not love. It is management. Do not buy favor with pain. Do not invoice others with your sorrow. Love thy neighbor as thyself means this. Make the honest amend love indicates. Offer restitution where it restores order. Speak the clean word once, and then be silent. Do not campaign for absolution. Do not hover to see whether their face has softened. As you sow, so shall ye reap.
Sow truth and repair. Release the harvest to God. Your neighbor is not your jury, neither are you theirs. One God, one power governs both.
Practically, it sounds like this. I was wrong in this specific way. Here is what I will do to restore. I understand if trust must grow by time. Then stop. No embroidery, no penitent theater. Pay what love indicates, not what fear imagines will purchase security, for spirit has no marketplace. After the amend, return to silence. If the mind wants to peek, did it work? Do they forgive me? Remember the farmer who tugs at planted seed to hurry the sprout and ruins the row. Non-interference is faith in law. 2 times 2 is 4. You do not clap to help it. Don't ever tamper with a cosmic law. It is a double-edged sword. Use it to control, and it will cut the controller. Hold to your posture of receptivity. Sit until you are virtually unaware of having a body, not for occult reason, but to remove intrusion. Whisper once, that grace is my sufficiency in all things. And then let it be sufficient without your supervision. In my oneness with God, I find my completeness and safety. Therefore, I withdraw my hands from the levers. Outcomes belong to God. Right action belongs to obedience. Peace belongs to presence. And when the click comes, or the quiet that needs no click, it will be known that the work is finished not by you, but in you. Living without the accuser is not a fireworks display. It is a simplicity. You will notice it first in the spaces where noise used to be. There is less rehearsal of old scenes, less composing of speeches for a courtroom that has closed. The mouth grows honest and brief. You do not feel the need to confess compulsively, to recount the same story to secure a verdict. You make the amend love indicates, and then you are quiet. The compulsion to be seen as sorry dissolves, and in its place there is a steady willingness to do what is right now. Freedom is measured by present moment quiet and right action, not by perfect feelings about the past. If a pang comes, you do not bow to it as a god. You keep moving under the one God, one power. Here are the daily proofs. Morning comes, and the mind does not lunge for yesterday. It takes breakfast with today. A mistake arises and is corrected cleanly, without a parade of self-censure. The face of a neighbor stirs memory, and still the word is simple: good morning. The hands reach for the task in front of them, not as atonement, but as obedience. You find that rest returns more easily, not because the mind has been drugged, but because the throne is occupied by presence, not by a plaintiff. The old inner policeman with the whistle is heard less. When he blows, he does not get the whole street to himself. Now adopt a micro-practice that seals this integration. 10 seconds, 20, 30 at most, many times a day. The signal is the first rustle of accusation. Do not argue, do not explain, do not analyze. Step to the sidewalk. When you are standing in the street and cars are coming, you do not debate with the automobiles, you relocate. So here, withdraw attention from the traffic of guilt into the safety of presence. Eyes open or closed, it makes no difference. Let the body be as it is, virtually unnoticed. Whisper once within, thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. And then be still for those few seconds. Absent from the body, present with the Lord. I am not in the physical. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. When the click comes, or when only a gentle leveling is felt, return to your task without commentary. This is how the road is crossed, 100 times, until living on the sidewalk becomes natural. Notice also this mark of release. The next right action shows itself without drama. You do not mount campaigns. You do not stage interventions upon your own soul. You hear, call, and you call. You hear, repair, and you repair. You hear, be still, and you are still. God is the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. As you sow, so shall ye reap. And now you sow in quiet, trusting the law to harvest what law alone can harvest. And if guilt returns, it will. Treat it as weather and practice as forecast. Its return proves only that practice is needed. It does not prove that guilt is true. No, no, do not let a cloud define the sky. Step again to the sidewalk. 10 seconds. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Then walk on, measuring freedom not by the perfection of yesterday's feelings, but by the quiet and the rightness of now. Now let the word that has been our password be our close, not as sound only, but as yielded life. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Whisper it once. Let it become the door. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Again, not to persuade God to act, but to persuade this mind to be still while God is God. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Sufficient for correction without condemnation. Sufficient for guidance without self-management. Sufficient for peace without bargain. Let the releasing be done in this silence. I release the past, not by denial, but by refusing to enthrone it as a second power. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. I release the need to pay, for there is no market in spirit and no cashier's window in heaven. I release the name, the guilty one, for there is no such citizen in the kingdom of God. I am not in the physical, absent from the body, present with the Lord. I rest from the labor of being a separate self. God is the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. Now let identity be relocated in its home. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. From that oneness, let the affirmations arise not as decorations, but as fact. In my oneness with God, I find my completeness. In my oneness with God, I find security. In my oneness with God, I find peace. In my oneness with God, I find joy. In my oneness with God, I find fulfillment. Not earned, not purchased, revealed, when the claimant retires and the presence is acknowledged as the only I. If a memory knocks, let the mantra answer the door. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. If a pang insists upon tribute, let the commandment stand watch. Thou shalt have no other gods. If the mind seeks to supervise the harvest, withdraw the hand and wait for the click, that quiet assurance by which the soul signals, "It is I, be not afraid." Then do only what love indicates, and do it simply. The rest belongs to law, to grace, to the One. So we finish not with triumph over a self, but with the surrender of self into God. Quiet gratitude, not for favors won, but for reality revealed. Thank you, Father, that I and the Father are one. Thank you that thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thank you that correction proceeds without condemnation, and that the accuser finds no courtroom in this consciousness. We will carry no souvenirs from the old trial. We will carry only this word, and let silence finish the work. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. And so it is, and I thank you.